More than 3,000 years ago, in the middle of what seemed like an endless desert, a structure appeared that still intrigues historians, archaeologists, and biblical scholars today. It was not a palace. It was not a stone temple, and it was not a city. It was simply a tent. But according to ancient records, this tent was the place where God Himself would descend to meet with human beings. It was called the Tabernacle. As the people of Israel traveled through the wilderness after leaving Egypt, nearly 2 million people journeyed together for 40 years. Throughout that entire journey, there was one structure that always remained at the very center of the camp. A construction unlike anything the ancient world had ever seen. There was nothing similar in any known civilization. The Egyptians built pyramids. The Mesopotamians raised massive ziggurats. Ancient cultures constructed enormous stone temples. But the Israelites carried a portable sanctuary. A complex structure filled with precise details, covered in precious metals, and surrounded by extremely strict rules. And an unavoidable question emerges. Why would a nomadic people build something so elaborate? And even more intriguing, why would the Creator choose a tent, rather than a palace of stone, to reveal His presence? The tabernacle was not just a religious structure. It was, at the same time, a temple, a spiritual center, and a symbolic dwelling place for the presence of God. Every part of its construction carried meaning. Every measurement was exact. Every material had a purpose. Nothing was accidental. The first feature that caught people's attention was the enormous outer courtyard. It measured approximately 45 meters in length and 22 meters in width. To put that into perspective, it was larger than a modern basketball court. This entire space was surrounded by curtains made of extremely fine white linen, attached to 60 bronze pillars. Each pillar stood nearly 3 meters tall and was secured into heavy bronze bases. Under the intense desert sun, the entire structure created a striking visual scene. The white linen reflected the sunlight. The bronze pillars shimmered. It was impossible to walk through the camp without noticing the structure standing at the center. But there was something unusual. Despite the large size of the courtyard, there was only one entrance. Just a single gate. That entrance faced east and measured about 9 meters wide. And this gate was completely different from the rest of the structure. While the surrounding courtyard curtains were plain white linen, the entrance curtain was made of richly colored fabric. 4 specific colors appeared in that curtain: wool, purple, scarlet, and fine white linen. These colors were not chosen simply for decoration. In fact, they were some of the most expensive and rare dyes in the ancient world. Purple dye, for example, was extracted from sea snails found in the Mediterranean Sea. Thousands of shells had to be crushed to produce a small amount of pigment. Scarlet dye came from rare insects. The blue dye was produced from special plants. It was an extremely valuable fabric. But why spend such wealth on a single doorway? The answer lay in symbolism. Before entering that place, a person needed to understand that they were approaching something sacred. Once someone passed through that entrance, the first thing they saw in the center of the courtyard was another remarkable structure: the bronze altar. It was a square structure measuring a little over 2 meters on each side and about 1.5 meters tall. This was where sacrifices took place. Every day, without exception, morning and evening. Animals were offered there as part of the system of worship established for the people. But there was an important detail. The altar stood directly between the entrance and the main tent. No one could approach the dwelling place of God without first passing by the altar. It served as a constant reminder that something had to be offered before entering. Behind the altar stood another essential object: a large bronze basin. Here the priests washed their hands and their feet before entering the sacred tent. This ritual cleansing was mandatory. No one could enter the tabernacle without first being symbolically purified. Only after this preparation could a priest approach the main structure itself, the tabernacle tent. The tent was constructed from boards made of acacia wood, each measuring about 4.5 meters tall. These boards were completely covered in pure gold. When the desert sunlight struck those golden walls, the reflection could be seen from far away. But the most complex feature of the structure was its roof. The tabernacle had 4 different layers of covering. The first layer was made of finely woven linen embroidered with figures of cherubim. The second layer consisted of goat hair. The third layer was made of ram skins dyed red. And the fourth layer was composed of durable outer skins designed to protect the entire structure from sun, rain, and wind. Together, these layers created extraordinary protection. Something extremely valuable was being protected inside that tent. Something that had to be guarded at all costs. When a priest stepped into the first chamber of the tabernacle, the environment changed completely. Inside there was never darkness. 7 lamps burned continuously. Their light reflected off the golden walls, filling the entire room with a warm and constant glow. This area was called the Holy Place, and only the priests were allowed to enter it. On the left side of the room stood one of the most remarkable objects in the entire tabernacle, the 7-branched lampstand. It was made entirely of pure gold. It had not been cast in a mold. According to the biblical record, it was hammered from a single piece of metal. Its total weight was approximately 34 kilograms. Each branch ended with a lamp shaped like an almond blossom. These lamps were fueled by pure olive oil, and they were required to remain burning continuously. On the opposite side of the room stood another important object, a table covered in gold. On this table were placed 12 loaves of bread. These loaves represented the 12 tribes of Israel. They were arranged in 2 rows of 6. Remarkably, even after sitting for a full week in the heat of the desert, the bread remained fresh. Every Sabbath, the loaves were replaced with new ones. The priests then consumed the previous bread. At the center of the room stood another object, a smaller golden altar. This altar was used exclusively for burning incense. Twice each day, once in the morning and once in the evening, the priest burned a special mixture of aromatic spices. This mixture was considered sacred. It was forbidden to reproduce it for any other purpose. The fragrant smoke slowly rose toward the ceiling of the tent, creating an atmosphere of reverence and mystery. But the most extraordinary part of the tabernacle still lay beyond. Separating the holy place from the final chamber was a massive curtain, a thick veil embroidered with figures of cherubim. Behind that veil was the most sacred space of all, the Holy of Holies, and inside that chamber rested the most mysterious object in the history of Israel, the Ark of the Covenant. Beyond that veil was the most sacred chamber of the entire tabernacle, a perfect cube measuring about 4.5 meters on each side. This chamber was known as the Holy of Holies. No windows, no furniture except one single object, and that object was considered the most sacred artifact in the entire history of Israel, the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark was not a large structure. It measured about 1 meter and 12 centimeters long, and roughly 67 centimeters wide and tall. It was built from acacia wood and completely covered in pure gold, both inside and outside. Gold protecting the wood from every direction. The lid of the ark was made of solid gold. This lid was called the mercy seat. At each end of the lid stood 2 golden figures. They were called cherubim. These were not decorative statues. In ancient Israelite belief, cherubim were powerful heavenly beings. The figures were sculpted with wings extended upward. Their wings stretched toward each other, meeting above the center of the ark. Their faces looked toward the mercy seat, and between those wings, something extraordinary was believed to happen. According to the ancient texts, this was the point where God spoke to Moses. The divine presence would appear above the ark, between the wings of the cherubim. The Ark of the Covenant was not only sacred because of its design, it was also sacred because of what was inside. 3 objects were placed within the ark. Each one represented a moment in the history of Israel. The first was a jar containing manna. Manna was the mysterious food that, according to the biblical narrative, appeared every morning during Israel's journey through the wilderness. It sustained the people for 40 years. The second object was Aaron's staff, a wooden rod that had miraculously blossomed overnight, confirming Aaron's priestly authority. The third object was the most important of all, the stone tablets of the covenant, the 10 Commandments. These tablets were believed to have been written by the finger of God on Mount Sinai. Together, these objects represented provision, authority, and law. But the Holy of Holies was not a place where people could simply enter. In fact, entering that chamber could be deadly. Only one person was allowed to enter, the high priest, and even he could only enter once per year. This happened during the Day of Atonement. Before entering, the high priest had to follow an extremely precise ritual. First, he would bring the blood of a sacrificed animal. Then he would burn incense until a thick cloud filled the chamber. This cloud was meant to cover the ark. Without it, the priest risked direct exposure to the divine presence. According to the ancient laws, even the smallest mistake in this ritual could result in instant death. The priest had to wear special garments. Every detail had to be correct. Even the order of actions had to be followed perfectly. Because the presence believed to dwell there was considered overwhelmingly powerful. While this sacred ritual happened once a year inside the Holy of Holies, life around the tabernacle continued every single day. Long before sunrise, the priests began their work. Around 4 in the morning, the camp of Israel was still silent. But the priests were already awake. The first task of the day took place in the courtyard. The ashes from the previous night's sacrifices had to be removed from the bronze altar. The fire on that altar was never allowed to go out. Every morning fresh wood was added to keep the flames alive. Then the daily sacrifices began. 2 lambs were offered every day. 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening, every single day of the year. 730 animals annually, just for the basic daily offerings. But this was only the beginning. During the major festivals, the number of sacrifices increased dramatically. On certain days, dozens of animals could be offered in a single ceremony. While these sacrifices took place in the courtyard, another set of duties occurred inside the holy place. The priest would clean the lamps of the golden lampstand. He would refill them with fresh olive oil. Then he would light them again. After that, he would burn incense on the golden altar. The fragrance would fill the entire tent. Once every week, the 12 loaves of bread on the golden table were replaced. Fresh bread was placed before the Lord. The previous loaves were eaten by the priests. This entire routine continued without interruption for decades. Day after day, year after year, through heat, wind, and desert storms. All of it required an incredible logistical effort. Animals had to be raised and transported. Wood had to be gathered to keep the altar burning. Large quantities of olive oil were needed for the lamps. Spices had to be prepared for the incense. Flour was required to bake the sacred bread. All of this moved with the people through the wilderness. The tabernacle itself was constantly assembled and disassembled. Each time the camp moved, the structure had to be taken apart. The Levites were responsible for transporting its pieces. When the people stopped, the tabernacle was rebuilt in the center of the camp once again. This portable sanctuary served Israel throughout their entire desert journey. But centuries later, something changed. The Ark of the Covenant and the tabernacle were separated. For the first time in history, the Ark was placed in Jerusalem while the original tabernacle remained in another city called Gibeon. This happened during the reign of King David. David had captured Jerusalem and made it the capital of Israel. He wanted to bring the Ark of the Covenant into the city. But David had an even greater vision. He wanted to build a permanent house for God, a temple made of stone, something far more magnificent than the portable tent. At first, the prophet Nathan encouraged David. But that same night, a message came from God. David would not build the temple. The reason was unexpected. David had been a warrior. He had fought many battles and shed much blood. According to the divine message, the temple should be built by a man of peace. That man would be David's son, Solomon. Even though David could not build the temple, he began preparing everything needed for its construction. He gathered enormous quantities of materials: gold, silver, stone, wood. The amount of precious metal he collected was astonishing. Thousands of tons of gold and silver, enough to construct one of the most magnificent buildings in the ancient world. When Solomon finally began building the temple, the first step was to reunite what had once been separated: the Ark of the Covenant, the sacred objects of the tabernacle. and the system of worship that had begun in the wilderness. All of it was brought together into a single permanent structure, the Temple of Jerusalem. This temple was much larger than the original tabernacle, built from massive stone blocks and cedar wood covered in gold, a permanent house for the presence of God. The tabernacle had served its purpose. It had traveled with the people through the wilderness. It had been a portable sanctuary for a nation on a journey. But now the people had a land, a capital, and a temple. The era of the moving sanctuary had ended, and a new era had begun.